Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intentional Advantage Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Dalton. This is episode 302. This is our last episode in our season of Does Your Life Spark Joy? We've been exploring that question all season long, and it's a big one. That's a big question to ask yourself, because if your life is not sparking joy, what's the point, right? I mean, we really want to be happy. Yes, we want to accomplish a lot of things, but it doesn't mean it has to be hard or it has to be difficult. And the truth is, if we're not stopping to ask ourselves that question, am I happy? Does my life spark joy? It's really easy to feel like you're living on autopilot, which is definitely something we explored this season. I think it was episode 294, where we talked about how to not live on autopilot. We've talked about a lot of these themes all season long, that inner voice in your head and where you want to go, how you feel about aging. We've talked about these things, but now it's time to step back and ask ourselves, where are we going? Do I like where I am? Right now, as this episode goes live, it is the end of June, which is a fantastic stop to take a breath, to do a quick check-in and see, is my life sparking joy? Because if it's not, let's make a few changes. Let's make some adjustments and let's bring a little more happiness to our everyday life. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. Let's get started. Does your life spark joy? I'm not asking if your life is good or if life feels okay. Does it spark joy? When was the last time you slipped into bed at night and thought, today felt amazing? Because if it's been more than 2 or 3 days, that's too long. I'm Tanya Dalton, a best-selling author, motivational speaker, 7-figure entrepreneur, and oh yeah, wife and mom. So I get it. I understand the stress of daily life, but as a productivity expert, I'm here to help you choose the extraordinary life. This season, we will be exploring how we can create more joy and intention into every single day. And it doesn't have to be so hard. This is the Intentional Advantage. All right, so as I mentioned in the intro, right now, as we record this episode, it's the end of June. It's the middle of the year. This is our mid-year stopping point. We're having the summer solstice this past week. This is a fantastic time to just take a little breather, to step back, see how you're feeling, and then move forward through the end of the year. Now, here's what I will say, because I know some of you will not listen to this as the episode goes live. You might be listening to this in March. You might be listening to this in August. You might be listening to it. Who knows? Whatever time you are listening to this, today is a good time to stop and do the check-in, especially if it's not something you're asking yourself on a regular basis. Hey, what's going on in my life? How do I need to make these adjustments? I am such a big fan of stopping and doing these check-ins. And the reason why is because I think so often we don't see the changes. We don't see the adjustments. We don't see where our life is going until we stop. I like to equate it to going on a hike. John and I go on hikes all the time. We go on these hikes and we live in the mountains of Asheville. And sometimes we're going on the hike and you'll get to a point where your legs are burning and you think there's no way I can go on. Right, John? You know what I'm talking about, right? Where we're just like
Absolutely, yeah.
exhausted. Maybe we're hot, we're tired, and we stop, we put our hands on our knees, and we think, oh my gosh, I don't think we're going to make it to the top. We're not going to see this beautiful view that everybody talks about. And then you stop and you look back at how far we've come, and suddenly, oh my gosh, it's so much easier because you realize, wow, we've already come this far. I've already accomplished so much. I can make it. And that's what a check-in does for you. It gives you that momentum. It gives you that second win to feel like, okay, I can keep doing this. Or you can stop and go, oh, wait, we haven't gone very far at all. My legs are already burning. I'm out on this hike. This one isn't going to work for us. We're going to bag out. We're going to go do something else, right? So both of those are options. But that's what life is like. Life can feel like a climb. It can feel exhausting at times. It can feel overwhelming. And if we're not stopping to do a check-in, it's really easy to feel lost.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, there have been those hikes where we have stopped and said, oh, geez, we're not even halfway to the end. We probably should just turn around, whether that's because we're tired or maybe it was Lucy that was tired, right? But if you
Mhm.
don't stop and you make it all the way to the end and you're like, oh my God, that was so far. Oh, wait, now I have to go all the way back and maybe it's getting dark, like you don't want to find yourself in that scenario. So checking in is always a good thing to do, and because you can always change directions. And I think that's what we're going to dive into.
Absolutely. Well, and this is the thing. I love to have check-ins scheduled on my calendar because just like anything else, if you don't have it scheduled, it's easy for it to slip into the cracks of everyday life. I don't have time to do that. I don't have it, right? There's so many excuses we can come up with. So I literally put this in my calendar that I stop and do a check-in every quarter of the year. As I mentioned earlier, it's June. So right now doing the Q2 check-in, also the mid-year check-in. I talk about this in On Purpose in my second book. There's a whole chapter dedicated to this because I feel so passionately about stopping and doing these check ins because this is what's going to allow us to move in a positive direction. It is so easy to slip into the autopilot and just think, well, this is just the way things are. This is just what life feels like. This is just I guess this is part of being middle aged, or it's part of being a parent, or it's part of being whatever it is, right? And the truth is, a lot of times we're just telling ourselves that. If we stop and we ask ourselves a couple of key questions, which we're going to dive into in just a few minutes, it's so much easier to stop and go, oh, hold on, I want to change that. Or, ooh, I want to double down on that. And this is the thing is you've heard me talk about this idea that we lean into priorities and then we counterbalance, right? You lean into another priority and you counterbalance. It's like riding a bike. We've talked about this numerous times. That's what we really want. That's the harmony in life. Well, sometimes we're leaning into a priority, and this check in allows us to go, oh, wait, I've been leaning into that priority for a long time. Maybe I've been going really hard at these work goals and I've been really focused on work. And it's time for me to counterbalance and lean into some family time. Maybe that's what you're going to find out. Or maybe it's, you know what? I need to lean into some personal time. I need to do some things for myself to drive a little more motivation and excitement in my own life. So, this is a
Mhm.
great opportunity to also stop and see, all right, where do I want to go next?
One of the things I think about is if you're pushing on something for a long time, you develop these blinders because you're just on this one path. So you start to lose the ability to pay attention to the other things. So it's a really good opportunity just to stop and take those blinders off for a moment and look around and see what else is going on. Are you on the right path? All of those types of things to make sure that you're focused on where you should be. Or maybe, like you said, it's time to counterbalance into something else.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to talk about the three A's today. So the three A's are acknowledge, assess, and adjust. So let's dive into those right now. Let's start with the first one acknowledge. When we acknowledge where we are, we're asking the question, where am I? Not where are you in the room or in your house, but where am I in this lifetime, in this path we call life? Where am I? I think so often we think about our goals and our dreams and the visions we have for ourselves, and we think of them as a path. We have point A, which is where we start, and we're trying to get to this point B. But the truth is, the path is all over the place. It's full of curves and detours and rerouting. And just like when you go on a car trip and all of a sudden there's construction happening, or maybe there's an accident and traffic slows down. So we really want to stop and say, hey, where am I right now? And I think we have a tendency to get irritated or frustrated when we have this rerouting, when we have these detours in our life. We feel like this should be so much easier, but the truth is, it's those very things that makes life so much more exciting and so much more interesting. I think that we lose sight of because we're so busy focusing on checking things off our to-do list, right? Getting shit done, that we forget
Mhm.
that these interruptions in our lives are actually opportunities. They're chances for us to go, "Hey, maybe I want to go a different direction," or maybe it's an opportunity for you to slow down a little bit. I feel like a lot of times the universe does things to intentionally slow you down to say, hey, you're going a little too hard. Let's back it up a little bit. Let's breathe. Let's coast for a little bit. But the truth
Mhm.
is, if everything was super simple, it wouldn't be very interesting at all.
One of the things I think is really important is When you acknowledge, you need to stop and acknowledge. So, for example, if you're driving down the highway and you're not sure you're going in the right direction, you're not going to pull out your GPS where you're driving 75 miles an hour. You need to pull over, look at your surroundings, really take it in, do it in a way that you can take the time to really understand where you are. And maybe you'll find some of those things that, hey, I'm going from point A to point B, but I'm missing these things in between. Why don't we work in a few stops? Like you and I, Tanya, when we went on our vacation a few weeks ago, we drove to Florida. We found some places to stop. We stopped at the Buc-ee's in Daytona Beach, which is probably the busiest, craziest place I've ever seen in my entire life. There's so many people there, but it was fun, right? It was a nice little detour that broke up the trip. So when you stop and really check your surroundings, that's when you can really see where you are.
I think the thing is we feel so often like we have to fight through when it's tough, when it's hard. And there are going to be times when the path is difficult. I often say doing what you love doesn't mean you love what you do every single day. There's going to be hard things, there's going to be tough things. Even when they're things that you're happy about or excited about, there's always going to be the not so fun jobs that have to happen. But if you are constantly, consistently feeling like, oh, this is just like I'm fighting through, I'm having to muscle through, this is not fun, we need to take a step back and really ask ourselves. And this is what I love about a quarterly check-in is it really intentionally carves out that space to ask those questions. Yeah, there's going to be times where things are not easy. There's going to be times where things are tough, but they're important and you're able to get through them. There are other times when it's tough and it means it's time to cut bait and just get out of there. I think what you said there is absolutely right too, when you were talking about you can't stop in the middle of driving down the highway. And that's the thing. So often we are on the super highway of life. We're going 90 miles an hour, even though the speed limit is, 60. We're racing through life. And sometimes we look down and we're like, hold on a minute. I'm not on the highway anymore. I'm suddenly off on this whole other place, which is why it's important with this first A, acknowledge, to ask, where am I? Are you still on the highway that you thought you were going to be on? Or are you maybe on some back road that you didn't really anticipate? And here's the beauty of the back roads is so often you get on these other roads and you're like, wait, I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know this opportunity was there for me. And I know for me, that has certainly been a theme in my own life. The points to get me from, let's say even when I graduated college to where I am today is a series of feeling like I know where I'm going and then realizing I'm not on that path, but wait, I like this a lot better. And so that gets us to our second A, assess. So we acknowledge and then we assess. And this second A, that's the question of, do I like where I am? Am I happy with where I am? Do I like being on the highway? Or maybe you're finding yourself on this back road and you're like, wait, I think I like that better. I didn't know there was this whole mountain view, this whole opportunity ahead of me. I didn't even know that was a possibility. And so asking this second A, do I like where I am, is really important because it's really easy to feel like, but I should be back on that highway. That's what I had decided I was going to do. Well, here's the thing, plans change. Like we talked about, there's that rerouting and the shifting and the detouring. And sometimes it shows you something brand new you didn't even know you wanted. But it's beautiful and I love it. So when it comes to assessing, I think the big key here is no judgment, which that's not easy to do. It's really easy to want to beat ourselves up and say, I'm the worst. Goals never work for me. I'm never doing the right things. But the truth is, maybe this is exactly where you're supposed to be. We have talked this season about this idea of letting go of what's good and what's bad, because our view of our timeline is so narrow. It's so tiny. We can't really see what's around the bend. Things that we think are bad actually end up being good. They're great things for us to learn, and things that maybe we think are good turn out to be not so great. We talked about that earlier this season where it's like, people I've dated in the past, how it was terrible when they broke up with me. But my gosh, I'm so glad they did because here I am with John 24 years later. So it is all about letting go of that judgment of good or bad, letting go of the shame that comes with, I didn't accomplish or I didn't do what I thought I was going to do. Because here you are on this back road with these beautiful mountain views, or maybe it's ocean views, whatever floats your boat. But here
Hmm.
I am somewhere else. So do I like it? Do I like this place?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think that's the hardest thing to do is to let go of the judgment and the guilt or the shame. Like if you find yourself, maybe you don't like the place where you are. And, I always try to think about how can I approach this a little bit differently. And sometimes I think about our cat, Loki, right? He's always in the backyard and he's trying to catch birds and moles and whatever. And I would say 95% of the time, his method does not work and he fails. But what does he do? What does the cat do? He immediately forgets about it and tries something else. He doesn't let that failure hold him back. He immediately moves on. And that's difficult for human beings to do, but dwelling on that past or that guilt or that shame doesn't help you at all. So try to figure out how can you really assess, don't get hung up on those things in the past and figure out, do I like where I am? I think it's hard, but it's really important.
I think that's a great analogy with Loki because he does. Most of his methods are terrible. They're just a complete fail. And then other times he is very successful. Generally when it's a
Mhm.
beautiful finch or a cardinal or some kind of like beautiful bird that he brings us. But it's so important to not give up just because something hasn't worked or to get soaked up in that shame and that disappointment. It's okay to think, oh, I kind of thought I wanted that, or I thought I'd be somewhere else. But it's not okay to get caught up in that shame spiral of just feeling like you're the worst, right?
Mhm.
And it's okay to let go of goals. It's okay to let go of things that you thought you wanted that you started and you realized, holy, this is not for me at all. There are plenty of things that I thought, I'm going to love this. And I get started and it's not what I expected. So you have to ask yourself, is this goal still for me? Is this still what I want? Sometimes we start with a fire in our belly and we feel like this is going to be amazing. And then a week or two in, we're like, ooh, I do not like this at all. But we feel stuck. And the truth is, you are never stuck. All you have to do is choose to get rid of it. I talked about this, I think, also in On Purpose, where I used to say that plans were written in pencil, but goals were written in ink. And that was like the dumbest thing I could have ever said because truly, goals are written in pencil. You can erase those anytime you want. You're not stuck just because you 18 months ago wanted something and now you realize you don't really want it. You don't have to keep doing it. It's okay to say goodbye to it. In the Substack this past week, I did an article on the anti bucket list talking about quitting is not an end. It's an opportunity for something new to happen. It's a chance for you to realign and really find what does fire you up. So, as you're doing this
Mhm.
assessment, ask yourself, am I happy? Do I like where I am? Do I want to get back on that highway going 90 miles an hour again? And maybe you do. Or do I want to stay here on this other road and see where this takes me? Both of those are opportunities. Life is choose your own adventure. You get to choose. We forget that sometimes.
I think sometimes we put too much weight on things and we think everything that we're doing is of vital importance. We think of ourselves as that we're all Winston Churchill, right? And what was his famous quote in World War II? If you're going through hell, keep going, right? And we think we have to do that. Well, I mean, he was trying to save his country from the Nazis. So we can agree on the priority level. That's pretty high. But
Pretty
ask
high.
yourself, is what you're doing really that important that you have to suffer through it? But if it's not, it's okay to just let it go. Try something else, go in a different direction. Sometimes it's hard, but if you just think about it, how important is this to me and other people? Sometimes that makes it a little easier.
I like that. I like that reframe because we do feel like the only way to get through hell is to just keep going. And sometimes the answer is look for the nearest exit, which is why this third A is adjust, right? You acknowledge, you assess, and then you adjust. And when you adjust, you ask the question, where do I want to go? Maybe you say, I'm on that super highway of life. When I stopped and I acknowledged where I was still there. I'm happy here. all right, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. Maybe make a few tweaks, maybe make a few adjustments, but hey, I like this. That's a great opportunity for you to stop, celebrate, give yourself a reward, something that we don't do nearly enough of. Give yourself a little
Mhm.
accolade. All right, you're doing great. Good for you. Let's keep going. Catch your breath and let's get going. Or maybe it is, I'm on this back road. It is beautiful, but I do want to get back to that highway. I do like that. Okay, then we need to ask ourselves, if I want to go back there, what do I need to do to get back on track? Are there some habits I need to cultivate? Are there some distractions I need to really make sure and mitigate and make sure that they're not interrupting my day? Are there some things I need to do to get myself back on track? And then you just start making those adjustments, little tweaks, little adjustments. Maybe it's, oh, you know what? I thought I'd have more time for this. I need to start getting up a little bit earlier. Okay, well, we have an episode about that earlier this season, right? I even have that blueprint for the intentional morning that I shared over on Substack. Maybe you need to make some adjustments to that morning routine or your evening routine, really making sure you're carving out space. Fantastic. That's a great adjustment. Maybe you say, yeah, I don't think that super highway's for me anymore. I like this back route. I like these mountain views. Let me see where this is going to take me. Let me see where these opportunities are. Okay, great. Your adjustment there is toss out the old goals and figure out what you want to do now. Whenever we've talked about your North Star, which we talk about in my books, we talked about on the podcast, your mission, your vision, your core values, I always tell people those are going to change. They're going to evolve over time. I mean, think about who you are right now and who you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. My goodness, I'm hoping that you have changed since then. I'm hoping that your priorities have shifted and adjusted and changed because you're probably a very different person than you were then. You had different relationships with people. Maybe you had different jobs or different interests. So it's going to change and it's going to evolve. This is why we stop and check in. And here's the thing. One of the big things we've talked about all season long is this idea of your backpack, right? That we go through life and we're putting things in our backpack, the successes, the achievements, the traumas, the failures, all the lessons. Oh my gosh, you've gotten so many lessons. Every time you stop and do a check-in, you really get to see, hey, I did these things really well. And whew, that did not go well at all. All of that can go in your backpack. The job that you thought you were going to love, that right now, as you do your assessment, you're like, ooh, I am not happy with that job. Guaranteed you pulled some skill sets from that. You got some experience, you networked, met some people. That's going to take you somewhere new as you go into the next job. If your adjustment is, I'm quitting this job and finding something new, right? So those are our 3 A's, and they're really simple. That's why I love the framework. You can see stopping and doing this check-in doesn't have to take a long time. It's not difficult. It's not complex. I have it in my calendar. I set aside a couple of hours to do it. I like to do a deep dive, but you could set aside even 30 minutes to do this, where you ask yourself those questions. You're going to start by acknowledging, all right, where am I? Then assessing, do I like where I am? And then adjusting, where do I want to go? If you walk through those 3 questions, it's going to help give you direction of where you want to go and how you want to get there. And I think that's what's really powerful. That's how we spark more joy in our life. We take ownership over these opportunities, over these choices, so that we can truly go in the direction we want to go.
I like what you said about the backpack, and I know you've talked about that a lot. I think that's really key to this whole process is when you stop to acknowledge, that you take that backpack out and when you're assessing things, you're like, what do I have in my backpack and what's good, what's bad? And then when you're making those adjustments, it's like, what tools do I have in my backpack to help me make this adjustment? Or do I need new ones? Do I need to go learn a new skill in this? And it's all about adding more things to your backpack and using what you have so that you can make sure that you're on the right path, or at least finding your way to the next right path that you want to be on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think we have to address the fact that it is really easy to beat ourselves up when things get hard, to take all of that onto ourselves, to think that it's somehow something wrong with us, that this is not okay, that we're the worst. That whole internal monologue, something else we've definitely discussed all season long, that internal monologue starts rearing its ugly head which I've given you a lot of tools this season to deal with that, naming the dog in your head and all of those things. But truly, this is what makes life exciting. This is what makes life interesting. John, the other day, you and I were on a walk and we were talking about when we go on walks, a lot of times John and I will talk about the different books that we're reading. Sometimes we read the same book, sometimes we're reading different books, but we'll share the plot lines of what's happening. And I was sharing with you, John, the other day that I was reading, it was a Riley Sager book. I've loved Riley's books in the past. I've always found them really interesting. They're thrillers. But the last couple I've read, I've said, I don't really like this one as much because it's the exact same formula. It's very formulaic. The first couple that I read, it was new, it was fresh. And now all the books seem to follow the same formula. There's this female antagonist, right? Or sorry, a female protagonist. I got to use my English terms correctly. She's unreliable as a narrator or as the person telling the story. These things happen. There's always some crazy plot twist. And that's exciting the first time. But after you've read that 2 or 3 times, it's no longer interesting. And so I was saying to you the other day that I'm kind of bored with these books, even though they're good, they're well written, it's just not exciting. And I think that's the thing is we need some differences in our life. We need some diversity. We need it to feel exciting and interesting. Otherwise, it would feel very rote.
Yeah, get caught in those ruts. And I was talking about, I've now read 3 Blake Crouch books, and they're all really good. I've liked all 3 of them, but they do have a similar pattern. So now I'm starting to get worried. Like, is the next one going to be, oh, here's the down on their luck scientist that's been working on this thing that hasn't gone anywhere, but now all of a sudden something weird happens. That's kind of how all the books start. Again, very good, but if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, it gets boring, right? And that's the same way with your life. Sometimes you need to shake things up a little bit. You can't just keep doing the same things over and over again, or it just becomes monotonous.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. In fact, because of this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to design a download, a mid-year motivator to help you get a little more excited about this second half of the year. What do you want to work on? What do you want to focus on? I'm going to design a download so that you can very easily go through this activity yourself. So if you go over to my Substack, tanyadalton.com/connect, I will have that there for you. I will also share 5 steps for a mid-year refresh because I think that'll help you go even deeper into this. And as we're talking about this idea of stepping back and taking a breather, I think this is a great opportunity for me to say, this is a breather opportunity for me as well. Usually in the summer, I like to take a little bit of time away from the podcast to do my 3 A's, to stop and acknowledge and assess and adjust, make some shifts, make some adjustments. I would love to hear from you as a listener. What would you like to see more of? What would you like to hear more? And this gives me an opportunity to gather together my thoughts and ideas of where I want to go when we come back in the fall. So this will be our last episode for a couple of weeks. I'll be back end of August, September, and I already have some ideas of where I think I want to go, but I would love to hear from you. What would you like to hear on the podcast as we come back? What would be most beneficial to you?
Before you sign off, I wanted to pop in and say how much fun I've had doing the podcast with you this season, being your kind of producer, right? Not really your yuck monkey, but kind of, right? Just to interject some other stuff here and there. So I would really like to keep doing that. I'd love to hear from some of the listeners if they've enjoyed that, because I know I have. So I had a lot of fun doing this. So I appreciate you involving me in the process. It's been a lot of fun doing that with you this season.
I really enjoyed that too. I have to say that was one of the big shakeups that we made this season is that we brought you on and you were very clear about, I am not talking 50-50. That's too many words for you to want to talk. But I have felt like your insights have been so beneficial and so interesting. And we've had a lot of people who have commented and said, I love what John said. Like it made me think about this, or I'm an introvert and I've dealt. So it's been great for me as well. I've loved it. I'm hoping that the listeners have. I would love to hear from you guys if you are enjoying having John as the producer, kind of as the Jiminy Cricket of the show, kind of throwing in his 2 cents every now and then. But this is such a great time for us to stop and assess and really figure out where we want to go. And I'm excited about where we're going to go in the fall. So as I get ready for my break, I want to give you the opportunity to give yourself a break. Take a step back and do this quick assessment. Use the 3 A's. Use this as an opportunity to check in and ask yourself those questions. It truly is so powerful. I think this one activity is responsible for so much of the success that I've experienced because it has allowed me to lean in and to really put my focus, my energy, my time into different areas based off of what I figure out during these quarterly check-ins. And that's brought me a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, and a lot of harmony, which is one of the things we talk a lot about here. And as you do this, there's going to be things that maybe come up that feel hard, that feel difficult, that do bring up some shame, or it feels frustrating. Oh, I really thought I was going to do well with this and it didn't work out. Give yourself permission to let go. Let go of the shame, let go of the guilt, let go of the past if you need to. Use it as a springboard. Your past is so full of so much great information and skills and experiences that you put in your backpack. Use that to build momentum to drive you forward. Life is choose your own adventure, so I want to encourage you to choose the direction you want to go into. Because when you do that, that's when you know you've got the intentional advantage. Ready to take action on what we talked about on today's episode? The easiest way to get started is my 5-Minute Miracle Mini Course. It's normally $97, but you get it for free when you join my free Substack. It'll boost your productivity and it will double your happiness. Plus, you'll get access to all kinds of extras from the podcast. Just go to tanyadalton.com/connect. And don't forget to follow The Intentional Advantage on your podcast player so you never miss an episode.